about to cheat on my husband with his dad. My husband is a little bit abusive, let me explain. We met 3 years ago when I was in college. Since then, he's always been really jealous and controls everything I do. After we got married, he basically told me that he didn't want me to work, so I haven't had a job for a year now. This means he wants me to be home all the time. I've managed to start doing certain things like take Pilates classes, I got into his salsa class, and I've managed to make a couple of friends near us. Now, the other bad thing is that we moved away when we got married. So I'm about 7 hours driving from my family. Because of this, I've become very close to my father-in-law. My mother and father-in-law divorced about 2 years ago. I don't get along with her because she thinks that my husband is perfect, and every time I complain about him, she just gets mad. But his dad understands me. He notices how jealous and controlling my husband is, so he tells him all the time he needs to give me time and space. Well, I started falling for my father-in-law. Let me just say something. This man is so handsome. He's so successful and has it together. My husband is really handsome, but the way he controls me just turns me off. Because my husband is so controlling and jealous, I became closer to my father-in-law. It's gotten to the point where I don't even let my husband touch me anymore. Anytime he comes near me, he gets so aggressive and always tries to kiss me even if I don't want him to. And every time I go to a dance class or to Pilates, he starts calling me to make sure that I'm there, even though he has my location turned on, so he knows where I am at all times. Because my husband has my location all the time, he never gets suspicious when I'm at his dad's house. So my father-in-law and I have been spending a lot of time together. When my husband goes off to work, I invite him over and we start talking about his son. And I basically complain to him the whole time about how controlling and jealous he is. But every time he comes over, the sexual tension between us is so real. My father-in-law invited me to go to the gym with him, so I've been working out with him every single day. And that's made us even closer. A few nights ago, I invited him over again. And that's when I told him the truth that I was attracted to him. That's when he told me that even though we were both attracted to each other, we needed to control our feelings. That's when I started making out with my father-in-law. At that point, I couldn't control myself. We had spent so much time together and bonded over his abusive son, my husband. After I kissed him, we just stared at each other. Mind you, we've only really known each other for about a year. And the whole time I've been with his son, I've always complained to him about how jealous and controlling he is, and how unsatisfied I am because I never let his son touch me. That's when he comes over and kisses me. Something almost happened when we laid down on the couch and started making out, but he stopped himself. I could see in his face how disappointed he was, but he also knows how unhappy I am to be married to his son. That's when I told him that I would get divorced from his son. Then he confessed that his son has been cheating on me for 3 weeks with one of his employees. Apparently, my husband promised him that he would leave her, but hasn't. So I proposed he and I start an affair, while my husband has his affair with his employee. I finally managed to convince him and he said yes. So we're gonna meet at a hotel this weekend. My husband said he's going on a work trip, but he told his dad that he's actually gonna be with his mistress. Oh, I might as well, why not? Life is too short. I'm totally attracted to him, and we'll just keep it a secret. What do you guys think I should do?
I wasn't out of the closet yet. I was in high school, and I was playing on the club volleyball team. And every few weeks, the volleyball team would go on these weekend-long trips for tournaments. And every time we went on these trips, my friend Josh and I would room together. And as we went on more of these trips together, I started developing, quite the crush on Josh. I thought Josh was dreamy as fuck. He had that shaggy surfer volleyball hair. He always wore the shortest shorts that I thought were so cute. And he was really nice to me and super funny all the time. But Josh always seemed super straight to me, so I didn't think anything would ever happen to us. Plus, I wasn't out of the closet yet, so as far as he knew, I liked girls. So when we went on these trips together, I was always super careful to not make my true feelings for Josh obvious. Which was honestly easier said than done, because Josh was a very flirtatious guy. He was clearly very comfortable with himself and confident, because when we would take showers together, he was the kind of guy that would smack guys' butts with towels afterwards. Or we'd go over to another guy's room at these tournaments and he would jump right into their bed with them and pretend to be cuddling. And he would always do stuff like this when it was just me in the room too. And I would always try really hard to not flirt back, because I didn't want him to think I was gay and I didn't want him to think I was hitting on him. So after a few of these trips, my crush on Josh was becoming quite overwhelming, to be honest. And I decided that I wanted to find out what would happen if I matched Josh's energy. So the volleyball team met up at 5 in the morning to drive down south to go to another volleyball tournament. I sat next to Josh on the bus. We drove down south and we competed in the first day of the tournament, and then it was time to go back to the hotel. Josh and I got our room and we had about 30 minutes to go get ready for dinner with the whole team. So I went in the bathroom and started showering. And one thing Josh would always do is come into the bathroom and try to jump into the shower with me as a joke. He'd be laughing and be like, "Come on, man, we shower together after practice. What's the big deal?" He was totally joking, right? And I'd always tell him to F off and laugh my ass off. So Josh comes into the bathroom, butt naked, and tries to get in the shower with me as a joke. But this time, I don't yell at him and tell him to get out. I'm just all right, come on in. Josh looked shocked. Like, I really don't think he knew what to do with that. Like, I think he felt like I had called his bluff, and he didn't know what to do. So to my surprise, he hopped in the shower with me. So now we're both taking a shower together, and I'm losing my mind at how excited I am. Like, yeah, I've seen Josh naked before, but I've never seen him, like, up close and personal in the same tiny little shower as me. Just the two of us. So honestly, I was just focusing on not getting, like, fully excited. And Josh was still just being ridiculous. He was making jokes about dropping the soap and, like, just being crazy. And I'm still just focusing on, like, not getting fully excited while trying to laugh back at Josh's jokes. And then to my surprise, I look down and notice that Josh is the one getting a semi. And Josh was always joking around with me and the other guys. Like, he definitely gave me really straight bro vibes, but he'd also do things like pretend like he wanted to jump in the shower with me or, like, go cuddle with the other guys as a joke. Until on this trip, I decided I wanted to see what would happen if I just went along with Josh's joking around. So Josh and I are in the room together and I went to take a shower. And Josh comes in butt naked, saying that he wants to get in the shower with me, which he always does. Like, he's always joking like that. But this time, I don't tell him to F off. I'm just like, okay, hop in. Josh seems super surprised, but he hopped in with me. And then to my surprise, as we're fooling around joking in the shower and I'm trying to not get excited, I look down and notice that Josh is the one starting to get excited. Now, I didn't say anything, but Josh must have noticed that I noticed, because he got out of the shower, like, immediately after that. And then we went out to dinner with the volleyball team. But the entire time we were at dinner, all I could think about now was, like, wait, is Josh really straight? Like, he had joking around before, but he had never taken it that far. And I'd never seen him start to get a semi before. So now I'm obsessing over, like, what is going to happen when we get back to the room? Is Josh going to, like, keep doing gay things as a joke? Or is he going to be, like, totally freaked out that he got excited and not do anything at all for the rest of the night? So fast forward to that night, and we were, like, hanging out in one of the other guys' rooms, talking, shooting the shit, and then it was time for me and Josh to go back to our room and go to bed. So we get back to the room, and Josh is acting totally normal. Like, apparently it didn't faze him what happened in the shower, so we were both just getting ready for bed. So we brush our teeth, we hop into bed, we both have our boxers on. And honestly, at this point, I was freaking tired, but Josh did not seem tired at all. Like, he was laughing, he was fucking around with me, he was being ridiculous. And the weird thing that he kept doing was he kept, like, trying to tickle me. Like, it was in a way where he was, like, trying to annoy me. Like, I was, like, rolling over and trying to go to bed, and then he'd, like, jab me in the side and start, like, tickling me and stuff like that. And every time I would start laughing my ass off, and I'd, like, roll over and start jabbing him back. And somehow that turned into Josh trying to take my boxers off, like, as a prank. And I was, like, shoving him off at first, like, telling him to stop, but laughing at the same time. And then I remembered, like, wait, I'm not going to tell him to stop. Like, I'm just going to see what happens if I let Josh do his thing. So he tried to take my boxers off again, and this time I didn't tell him to stop. So I'm laying there, and he's pulling off my boxers, and he gets them, like, halfway down. Like, my boxers are now around my thighs, and he's like, hey, are you going to try to get me to stop? And I said something like, if you really want him off, take him off. And he laughed and was like, I'm not buying that. I think he thought that I was, like, trying to do reverse psychology. And then he takes off my boxers all the way. So then I start fucking around with him and trying to take his off. And I would always tell him to stop, but I decided that I was going to see what would happen if I just didn't tell him to stop. So we got back to our hotel room, and we both got into bed with our boxers on, and Josh immediately starts messing with me. Like, he keeps trying to tickle me as a joke, and then that turned into him trying to, like, pull my boxers off as a joke. And at first I told him to stop, but then I remembered that I was going to see what would happen if I just didn't tell him to stop. So I let him pull my boxers off. He got them all the way off, and then I started trying to pull his off, you know, as a joke. And at this point, I was losing my mind with how excited I was. Like, I literally was, like, at full attention under the blankets, hoping that Josh wouldn't notice. So I'm trying to pull Josh's boxers off, and he's, like, pushing me back, trying to get me to stop. And I was teasing him, like, come on, man, you took mine off. What, are you shy? You're not going to take yours off, too? And he was like, no, I'm not just going to take them off. So I kept fucking with him and, like, pretty much wrestling, trying to get him off of him. And this was all, like, totally in a joking way. Like, we're laughing our asses off while doing this, but I'm also really freaking excited and, like I said, still at full attention. So after a little more roughhousing, I finally got him off and I threw him across the room. So then Josh gets out of bed to go get his boxers that I threw across the room, and I was just staring at his tush. It was so freaking cute. Like, it was, like, firm, and he had such a big tan line, and when he bent over to pick up his boxers, I got a really good view. And then he ran back over to get into bed with me, But he didn't just get into the bed, he ripped the sheets off of the bed. I was literally shocked at this point. Like, I did not expect him to do that. And I was at full attention, so I was like humiliated. Josh noticed instantly and was like, whoa, man, and called me out for being at full attention, and then made some joke about like me being gay for him. And I like tried to defend myself and be like, no, like it's not about me being gay. Like it was just the way I like was moving in the sheets that somehow got me excited. And then I was like, dude, I noticed that you started to get excited in the shower earlier. Like, what? Are you gay for me? He defended himself too. And we both kind of like acknowledged that that just happens and it's not really that we're into each other. So Josh got back into bed and we just kind of like laughed about that a little bit more and then just started chatting. And I really wanted to like try to take it further and cuddle with him or kiss him or do something. I don't know, just suck on something. But I was really nervous and I didn't have the balls to do it. But we did fall asleep without our boxers on. Like we just didn't even mention the fact that we didn't put them back on and drifted off. And we were still going to share the room together the next night. So I was just like obsessing over what I was going to try to do with him the next night. And I decided that I was actually going to try to hit on him. The next day we went and competed in our tournament, and of course we didn't talk about what happened at all. But all I could think about all day was how I wanted to have something happen with Josh, and I kind of decided that like I was going to make a move. So fast forward to that night, we all go out to dinner with the team, and then Josh and I get back to our hotel room. So I went and hopped in the shower, and I was hoping that Josh would like come try to mess with me and jump in the shower again like he did the first night, but he didn't. So then Josh went and took a shower, and when he came out of the shower, Josh was kind of like back to his usual goofy self. He took his towel off right in front of me and literally started like doing a helicopter with his thing as a joke. Obviously I was mesmerized by this. Like it literally could have been one of those like hypnosis spinning wheels. I watch that shit all day. But I was still really, really closeted. So even though I wanted to like hit on Josh, I was really nervous and I like looked away and told him to put it away. I was also laughing my ass off the entire time this was happening. So Josh put his boxers on, we both sat in bed next to each other and started watching TV. And immediately Josh was like fucking with me again. Like he was like jabbing me like he did the last night and trying to like tickle me. And I was trying to like build up the courage to make a move, but I really didn't know how to do it. Like I wanted to make a move in a way that like if Josh shot me down, I would be able to play it off like I was just joking and I wasn't really trying to do anything. So I started jabbing Josh back like I did the night before. So at this point, we're both like totally fucking with each other, laughing our asses off, like pretty much wrestling in the bed. Josh started like jokingly trying to take my boxers off again. And I was really fighting back and kept like pushing him off and stuff. And like as I'm pushing him, I kept touching his chest and honestly kept getting really excited. And then Josh was trying to like pin me down with his elbow so he could take my boxers off more easily. And then I overpowered him and flipped him over and like pinned him down with both his arms up above his head. So I'm literally like straddling him, pinning him down, and we both kind of paused at this point. We probably paused for like 2 seconds, but honestly felt like a 10 or 20 second pause to me. And I kind of realized like, if I want to make a move, this is my chance. So we were laughing and he's pinned down and we're both looking at each other in the eyes and we both stopped laughing. And it felt to me like Josh had a look in his eyes, like there was a connection. So I just leaned in and kissed him. Josh kissed me back for like half a second and then shoved me off. So I have Josh pinned down and we're both making eye contact with each other for like what felt like a long time for me, but really was like a second or two. And I realized that if I wanted to make a move, this was my chance. So I just leaned in and kissed him. Josh kissed me back for like a second and then pushed me off of him. He was like, what the hell, dude? Are you gay? I was literally panicking at this point. Like I felt like I just got caught, like outed. So I tried to play it off and I was like, no, I'm not gay. Like I was just fooling around. We talked about this for a second and Josh was not buying it. Like he didn't believe that I was straight anymore. So I leveled with him and I told him like, I'm mainly into girls, but I can get excited about guys sometimes too. And then to my surprise, Josh was actually really cool about that. And he was like just talking to me about it casually. And then he started asking me like what specifically I like about guys. And he wanted to know like what would I want to do with a guy. So I told him, and I told him like, you know, if I was with another guy, I just would want to get like handsy or something. And then really to my surprise, Josh just says I can go ahead and do that to him if I want to. I was honestly confused by this at first. And he was like, yeah, man, no big deal. Like, it's just a hand. I don't care. And of course, I wasn't going to pass up this opportunity. So I was like, okay, down. Sounds great. But I really couldn't figure out if Josh was just like actually letting me do this or if he was like also into guys, and this was just his way of making it so he could still claim he was straight. I kind of assumed it was the latter, and in the moment, I didn't really care either way. I was just down to be able to do something with another guy. So I agreed, and Josh made me promise that I wouldn't tell anybody ever. So, you didn't hear this. And then Josh took off his boxers and laid back on the bed, and he just laid there and closed his eyes, I guess just waiting for me to do what I needed to do. And I don't think I can go into too many more details about that without violating guidelines, but let's just say, oh my God, we had a good time. And Josh seemed really, really into it. More than a straight guy should be into doing anything with another guy. He literally lasted less than 2 minutes. So the next day I brought him up and I told him I had a really good time. He told me that it was fine. And then he again reiterated that I better not tell any of the other guys. So we just went on with our day and didn't say anything. And then back in school, he was treating me pretty much the same as he did before. He was joking around with me, he was being really nice, but every time I tried to actually hit on him, because I did try, he would shoot me down. But we were never in a one-on-one setting, at night, like we were when we would spend the night together at these tournaments. Josh didn't do sleepovers or anything, but I kind of figured maybe the next time we go on a tournament, something will happen again. So maybe I'll tell you guys a story about the other tournaments in the future, but for now, we're going to leave it at that.
I told my mom her boyfriend kept trying to molest me and she won't believe me. Once I was born, my father abandoned my mom and I. So my mom raised me on her own with the help of my grandma. My grandma decided to retire in a different state, so we didn't have her help anymore. This is when my mom started dating a new guy. He was really great. He was definitely a father figure. He took care of me and my mom, and he even had his own son, so we were about the same age. We were like the Brady Bunch. It was the happiest time in my life that I can remember. But soon my stepdad found out that my mother was cheating on him with a neighbor. He would go off to work and my brother and I would go to school. So my mom would have the neighbor come over and they would do whatever they would do. Another one of our neighbors decided to tell my stepdad the truth and he caught them. Quickly divorced my mom and abandoned me too. Because of this, my mom and I definitely have abandonment issues. But it was all my mother's fault from the beginning. She eventually met someone new when I was 16 years old. This man was not like my stepdad. He drank a lot and always invited his friends over. There were always strange grown men in my house, and my mom would constantly tell me to put on clothes before they saw me. But my mom just encouraged them to drink alcohol. At this point, I was 16 and I was growing into my body. I was a teenager going through puberty. My mom's boyfriend would always invite his guy friends over. And anytime I came out of my room, they would make comments about my body and how quickly I was growing. Then my mom would tell me, you need to cover up before they see you. Instead of my mom protecting me and telling these men not to talk to me like that, she was telling me to cover up. So I did. Around my stepdad and his friends, I started wearing really big t-shirts. This led me to become ashamed of the curves that I was growing into. I would even layer sports bras just to flatten my chest. That's around the time my mom's boyfriend started acting strange. Anytime I was in the bathroom, he would always make up excuses as to why he had to come in. And this man would pee in front of me. Even if I was brushing my teeth or taking a shower, he would always try to come in. I obviously started locking my door and I told my mom that I didn't want him to come in when I was in the bathroom. And she would say things like, this is his house. But he didn't pay rent. My mom was the one paying the rent. Oh yeah, and anytime I had my period, he always wanted to know certain details, like how much I bled. But it gets worse. Whenever he would start asking me questions about my period, I would automatically shut off. This is around the time where I got my first boyfriend. This is when I made the mistake of telling my mom the truth. She wanted me to invite my new boyfriend over and all she did was strut around in a tube top and shorts. And she kept saying things to him like, wow, you look so big for your age. She completely embarrassed me and my boyfriend actually felt so uncomfortable he went home. After that, my stepdad kept paying more and more attention to me. Anytime I was in my bedroom, he would always look for excuses to come in. He would knock on my door and he'd pretend like he wouldn't hear me say don't come in. And he would come in anyway whenever I was changing. Didn't have a lock on my door, so my boyfriend helped me install it. And when my mom's boyfriend found out, he threatened to beat up my boyfriend. One night he came into my bedroom and tried to touch me. I yelled at the top of my lungs and my mom came in. This woman pretended like nothing had happened. The next day she told me that I was just dreaming. Then she told me that I was just trying to provoke him. I actually ended up moving in with my boyfriend and we got married. Bye, toxic mom.
My best friend, we'll call her Maggie, and I met in freshman year of college. We are now roommates and moved in together 2 years ago. In 2015, my best friend spent spring break a couple states away and matched with a guy on Tinder. When she came back to campus, she immediately told me about him and how amazing he was and how they only went out to dinner once. This was obviously a lie, but that they were talking 24/7. I got super excited and asked to see a pic. That was the only picture of him that she's ever shown me. Over the past 5 years, he's literally been her whole world. She talks about him constantly. She always has her nose in her phone. She gets clingy when he takes too long to text back. She's cried to me a few times because she's looked on his social media and seen he was around other girls. My roommate doesn't have social media herself. I had asked a few times why they never met up again, and she said that they're both too busy and don't have the money for the trip. I even told her that he could stay with us and that would save some money. He sent presents and even flowers on Valentine's Day every year. They've basically been dating this whole time. So yesterday, my roommate picked up his shift at work and was gone. I get a knock on our door and I open it to a guy. He says hi, and I give a confused hi, and then he barges in and scoops me up into a hug. He starts saying, "I thought you were working. I was hoping your roommate was here so I could surprise you when you got back." And I am so confused. I immediately get down and back away and let him know that I have absolutely no clue what he's talking about. My brain can't even process what's happening. Then he looks confused and says, "Maggie?" And I'm like, "No, that's my roommate." My roommate and I look nothing alike, so I'm even more confused. Then something kind of clicks and I think, oh my god, is this the guy she's been dating? So I say, "Wait, are you Adam?" And he gives me a very slow yes. And I get excited and say, "Oh my god, I bet Maggie is going to flip out. I can't believe you're here." His demeanor completely changes. He asks me what I'm talking about. "I'm Maggie," and I tell him, "No, I'm Summer." At this point, I'm completely missing something that he's just pieced together. He just says, "Holy fuck," and looks like he doesn't know what to say. Eventually, he asks if he can sit down. I invite him in. He then proceeds to tell me for the past 5 years, he's thought he's been talking to me. Every picture he's ever seen of Maggie has actually been pictures of me. I'm completely dumbfounded and we don't know what to say to each other at first. So he gets out his phone and shows me proof. He has tons of pictures of me saved on his phone and went to their messages and showed me proof that she's been sending them to him. I felt and still feel completely sick to my stomach. I get out my phone and show him the real pictures of her. I tell him that maybe they could just talk when she gets off work. And he's really pissed at this point. I say maybe we should call her first and let her know that he's here. So I do that and she starts flipping out, saying she's not coming home. Tells him to leave and that she won't talk to him. He calls her and starts yelling at her over the phone. After everyone calms down, she eventually comes home. He's hurt and accusing. She's crying. I'm sitting there awkwardly. She tells him that she's still the same person he's had feelings for, and he screams at her, "No, I thought I was in love with your roommate." And that completely makes her break down, so I tell him that maybe he should leave for the night and that everyone should have their own space. He agrees, and after he leaves, she goes completely psychotic on me and starts throwing shit around the living room. Tells me she hates me. I start crying. It's a mess. I left to stay with a friend and I haven't been back, so I don't know what's going on. I feel like I have no idea who the person I'm living with is, and I feel weirdly violated. Do I move out? Do I try to call her? She hasn't even texted me once. I don't know how to deal with this situation. My wife and I are expecting a child in October. We are nearly in our 30s and have been trying for a child for some time. I won't go into details, but it's been difficult. In February, we discovered that she was pregnant. Obviously, we were over the moon with joy. We began to prepare. We did everything you could possibly do to get ready. We planned a baby shower and sent out invitations. We prepared a beautiful room with custom-made crib by my father-in-law, who is a very talented woodworker, and we were extremely thorough in baby-proofing our home. During the baby-proofing, my wife started to suggest that we get rid of my cat, Bubba, who is 12 years old and I've had since he was a kitten. I got him in college. I adopted him, and each of my 2 sisters adopted another kitten from the same litter. Bubba is extremely affectionate to me. So sweet and cuddly. He tolerates my wife, but is not affectionate towards her. To strangers, he's not nice. He has never bitten or scratched anyone, but he does a lot of hissing and yowling at people he is unfamiliar with. My wife was afraid that he'd scare the baby, he wouldn't be welcoming to the newborn, or that he'd hurt her. I argued gently, but eventually agreed. In her 28th week of pregnancy, we sent him to live with my parents. He was not happy there. My parents said he cried all day and walked around meowing 24 hours a day, looking for me. Tragically, my wife and I lost our child just weeks before she was due. We still don't have a lot of answers, and it's painful to get into. We mourned. We were inconsolable for weeks. I still can't think about it without feeling complete agony and loss. After a month, we returned to some level of normalcy, as normal as things could be. As normal as things could be anyway. We started to explore adoption. Last week, I told my wife that I was going to go pick up Bubba and bring him back home. She exploded. She said that under no circumstances would she allow him back in our house and that I had agreed to have him live with my parents. I missed him. He's been my best friend for years. He's been my loyal companion my entire life. She told me that I could pretty much choose between her or Bubba. I told her that I obviously would choose her. It's not even a question. But that I didn't understand her reasoning and I felt like she was being cruel. She had lived with him for 10 years and there had never been any problem. The adoption process can take anywhere from 8 to 12 months on average, and I'd like to spend that time having Bubba around. We haven't spoken about it since. This is the first fight we've had. Am I in the wrong for wanting to bring my cat back into my house after my wife's late stillbirth?
I was having literally the calmest Christmas ever. My kids opened their gifts. They were really grateful. We had fun. We've been playing games all day. So I decided to go and start throwing some trash away because I had so many things in here to just throw away. So I'm throwing some things away. You feel me? Like getting my house all the way together, you know, that way we could sit down and do other activities. So I go to the hallway, I'm throwing some stuff away, and the neighbor asks us for some milk. Now, if y'all heard my story times before, y'all would know that my neighbors are weirdos, and these people are always trying to ask me for something, and I'm already at the point where I deny it because I do not play with them. And her daughter asked me for some milk, and I was like, you know what? It's Christmas. Let me just give these people a cup of milk. Like, it's not a problem. You feel me? So the girl gets a cup of milk or whatever. Like, she gets her cup. She brings it to my door or whatever. She drops the cup in front of my door with the milk in it. She ends up cleaning by my door and stuff like that, even though I told her, like, I will clean it up. Like, it's not really an issue. You feel me? I'm just busy right now with my kids. Like, period. So she's like, nah, you feel me? I'm gonna clean that up or whatever. I got you. I'm gonna get that glass too. Like, just give me a second. Let me get my heco hello. So I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. So she cleans her stuff, whatever, right there in front of my door. And she knocks again. She's like, can I just please have that cup of milk? Cause my fault. I just dropped the milk, whatever. Da-da-da. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna give it to you, but like, I really don't got milk like that. But here you go. So at this point, I'm like, I'm gonna just give her the jug because I'm not doing the whole she dropping the thing. Nah, just take this. My kids run, they think it's a friend of mine or whatever, and they're like trying to go say hi. I'm like, no, go sit down, you feel me? This person inching their way in my door. I'm like, I'm really busy right now, and I'm not trying to have company in my crib, and I just don't be doing that. I don't have people in my crib. My kids go and sit down or whatever. I don't know where this lady going come like halfway in my crib. I'm trying to talk her out. She trying to talk to me about G Herbo and Carisha little thing. I'm like, nah, like I'm not trying to have company. We could talk the whole way, whatever, right? So this lady gonna turn around like in her mid conversation and be like, call them. I'm like, huh? I'm like, yeah, nah. So I'm trying to walk towards the door. Bro, I walk towards the door while this lady goes and grabs me from behind, bro, and like tries to take me to the ground. She's screaming. She talking about no, this, that, and the third. Call them. At this point, I don't know what's going on, but I'm gonna just speed up because it's too much for TikTok. So I called the police. The police get here. They telling me this lady got a mental condition, and these people been knocking on my door. I'm like, yo, like, y'all gotta get these people because they always bothering me for whatever reason. I don't know. I'm glad I was able to defend myself, but I thought I was going to fucking die in my crib on Christmas in front of my kids. Nobody here to help me.
So I get a call from daycare saying that Athena's not feeling well and then I need to come pick her up. And I'm like, okay, I'll be there in a little bit. I show up. I'm like, since you don't feel well, we're going to put you on a brat diet, which is bananas, rice, applesauce, and toast. Great for those upset tummies. So that means we're going to have to take a trip up to the Walmart. Unload my whole crew, and Athena looks at me and says, I'm going to throw up. I'm like, well, let me hold your hair. Do you think? Bam, she throws up, does her thing. We get home and I unload all of them. Athena's like, Mom, I'm going to throw up again. I'm like, girl, this is front yard. Do you think? She throws up literally everything underneath the sun, okay? And I'm just like, alrighty then. Tell her to go inside, put on her jammies. Now she's going to put on her jammies and she goes, Mom, there's poop on my jammies. I'm like, why on God's green earth is there poop on your pajamas? Why ask? Why? So I look over to the window and I see that Ty is covered in poop. Shoes all the way in his hair. I don't even bother stripping him down. I just take the whole child and throw him into the bathtub. And I'm like, it's all done. It's all done because there's a puddle of poop in my living room. So I go to clean up the puddle of poop and I noticed the trail, right, that it was Ty's, and I was like, okay, that's logical, but why? Why is there another trail going this way? Then I remembered that there's a third child. Where is she? Well, she thought the puddle was a play puddle. I mean, I hate it here. So I picked up that child and I'll throw her in the bathtub. So my Thursday has been really crappy. And as many times that I have scrubbed and washed my floors right now and washed my hands, it still smells like poop in my house. Have kids, they say. It'll be so much fun, they say.